Great stuff. Back on Qurm Beach, got something really nice to show you. I've just found a really large jellyfish. It's called a crowned jellyfish, or crown jellyfish rather. So there it is, a real beauty. I'll just move around so the sun's on the right side. It's a crown jellyfish, and you can see why they call it a crown jellyfish. It sort of looks like it's got tentacles on its crown, and it's quite a large jellyfish actually. It's magnificent. If you can compare it to the size of my hand, you can get an idea of scale. So it's a very big jellyfish, and this is washed up now. It's kind of autumn now in Muscat, so getting a lot of jellyfish washing up. They started roughly in spring, and as the summer progressed, we got more and more washing up. There's some other jellyfish on the beach I'm going to show you in a second, but as I stand up, you can see over here we've got a lot of pieces of shell washed up, and also these little holes. You can see the hole there. That's a ghost crab, a young ghost crab, a very juvenile ghost crab hole. They obviously get a lot larger, and you can see the pellets here where the ghost crab has been sort of collecting balls of pellets, feeding and also discarding them from the hole. When it becomes an adult, it's going to build kind of a tower of material from the hole it excavates, and that helps it to sort of orientate and find its way back to the hole. These are some more jellyfish that have just washed up on the shore here. You can see them in the foreground, and as I make my way through, you'll see they're all relatively small in comparison to the first jellyfish, the crown jellyfish that I've just shown you. These are called sun jellyfish, is one of the common names. Cramboniella orsoni is the scientific name. Very, very pretty. They have been washing up the whole summer on Omani beaches, particularly in northern Oman, or north to central Oman, so in the Muscat area. So here we have a partially buried mollusk called Oliver bulbosa. It gets very, very nice patterns, sometimes zigzag patterns on the shell. This actually might be a live one that's kind of buried itself as the tide has gone out, because the tide is really far out now. The small shells that occurs in the beach, and they've got many, many different patterns. Here we can see another one here. I have to put that there for comparison. So you can see the very, very different patterns that these shells have. Ambronia vestiarium, if I can remember correctly. Let's just check. Here's another one. Pretty cool. Here we have a number of shells that have, mollusks rather, that have attached themselves to this piece of coral, and they're waiting for the tide to come back in. And you can see there's quite a variety of shells as I scan over. This is a female crab, a swimming crab. You can see it's a female because it's got this very large flap on the base of the carapace, which is where it stores its eggs. It's been completely hollowed out, obviously by a fish or something else, and yeah, it's a swimming crab. These are the pleuropods which they use for swimming. Here we have an algae called Tidal, one of the many species of algae that you get in this region. Not much to be said about it, I'm afraid, but most marine algae can be used in a number of ways to make various substances, well, the base of various substances such as toothpaste and various confectionery gels, etc. So the tide's rushing out now. This would be called the flow, or the ebb rather, of the cycle. The flow would be when the tide is actually coming in. And this is low tide, it's extreme low tide. Full moon was a couple of days ago, and so you can see the tide is right out. That tree, that nearest bunch of trees in the distance, is kind of where the tide normally ends up at high tide. So you can see it's receded quite considerably, and the water's still rushing out, so it means it's still going out as low tide. Yeah, we're facing in the opposite direction, and you can see the tide mark on the rocks, the sort of extreme high tide mark on the rocks, and you can see how far it has receded. So it's quite a considerable drop of probably 2.5 meters. So that's pretty high. Most beaches will be 1.5 meters difference. There are some beaches though where the tidal difference can be 14 meters between low and high tide. So here's an extreme example of molluscs collecting around on rocks, and of course hermit crabs as well. You can see one poking its head out there, waiting the tide out basically. I'll span across here, you can see a whole lot more. But look at the variety of shells here. It's actually very pretty. Look at the colors and the textures. Really nice. Here we have some stills of the molluscs that are covering these rocks and pieces of algae. Very colorful and very diverse. So we've got a couple of house crows here, parking off on one of the fishermen boats. They've been left here over the low tide. They look for all kinds of scraps, and they're very good opportunists. Very smart birds as well. Good problem solvers. House crows.